I think I didn't do anything wrong, just followed my heart for once, and now I'm opening the front door to find a courier handing me divorce papers. They say actions have consequences, but honestly, I never thought it would come to this. My whole family is watching, and nobody's on my side anymore. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. Let me start from the beginning, because maybe if I explain it properly, you'll understand why everything fell apart so quickly. The fluorescent lights in Nathan's hospital room made everything look sickly and pale, including my husband lying there after his minor gallbladder surgery. He was groggy from the anesthesia, but his eyes followed me as I gathered my purse and checked my phone for the third time in 5 minutes. "Isolde," he said softly, "could you stay a little longer? The nurse said I might feel nauseous when I try to eat." I forced a smile, the kind I'd perfected over 7 years of marriage. "Nathan, you're 36 years old. I'm sure you can handle some Jell-O without supervision." My phone buzzed, a text from Elliot. "Coffee at 3. I've been thinking about you." My heart raced in a way it hadn't in years. When was the last time Nathan made me feel like that? When was the last time anyone did? "But the doctor said," Nathan started. "The doctor said the surgery went fine and you'll be discharged tomorrow morning. I have urgent work stuff to handle, and honestly, you're being a little needy right now." I softened my tone, adding a touch of concern. "You know how overwhelmed I've been at the office. This is important for our family's financial security." Nathan's face fell, but he nodded. He always nodded. That was the problem. He never fought for me, never showed passion about anything except his precious science classes. "Okay," he whispered. "I love you." "Love you too," I replied automatically, already halfway to the door. In the elevator, my phone rang. Helen, Nathan's mother. "Isolde, dear, how's Nathan doing? I'm stuck at work, but I'm so worried." "Oh, Helen, I'm still here at the hospital. He's doing great, just resting. The surgery went perfectly." The lie came easily. "I'll stay with him until visiting hours end." "You're such a good wife, Isolde. Nathan is lucky to have you." If only she knew how lucky he really was. I was sacrificing my own happiness for this family every single day. When was the last time someone worried about my needs? As I walked through the hospital lobby, I spotted Elliot's silver BMW through the glass doors. My reflection in the window looked tired, older than my 34 years. But when Elliot saw me and smiled that crooked grin I remembered from college, I felt alive again. I didn't notice the security camera that captured me sliding into his passenger seat, or the timestamp that would later prove I left Nathan alone just 2 hours after his surgery. The downtown cafe buzzed with afternoon energy, a stark contrast to the sterile quiet of the hospital. Elliot had chosen a corner table, and seeing him there, confident, successful, interested in me, made my chest tight with possibility. "You look beautiful, Isolde," he said as I sat down. "Marriage suits you." I laughed, but it came out bitter. "Does it? Because I feel invisible most days." Elliot leaned forward, his dark eyes focused entirely on me. "Tell me everything. What's really going on in your life?" So I did. I told him about Nathan's emotional distance, how he spent more time grading papers than talking to me, how he never surprised me anymore, never made me feel desired, how I was drowning in routine, work, dinner, Chloe's homework, bed, repeat. "He doesn't even notice when I dress up," I said, stirring my latte. "Last week I wore that red dress, you remember the one, and he asked if I was going somewhere special. We were going to dinner together." Elliot shook his head sympathetically. "You deserve so much more than that. You always did." My phone buzzed. Chloe calling. I sent it to voicemail. "You're not happy," Elliot observed. "I'm not," I admitted. "I haven't been for a long time. I keep thinking about what my life could have been if—" I trailed off, but we both knew what I meant. If I hadn't chosen Nathan, if Elliot hadn't moved to California for graduate school, if I hadn't settled for safe and predictable. "It's not too late," he said quietly. "You know that, right?" My phone rang again, my mother this time. I declined the call. "How's Nathan doing, by the way? You mentioned he had surgery today." "Oh, he's fine. Milking it for attention, honestly. It was just a minor procedure, but you'd think he was dying the way he was acting." I waved dismissively. "He's probably sleeping anyway." Elliot reached across the table and touched my hand. "You've been taking care of everyone else for so long. When do you get to take care of yourself?" When my phone buzzed again, Chloe, texting this time, I turned it face down without reading it. "I should take care of myself more," I said, not moving my hand away from his. Elliot smiled and leaned closer. "I've missed you, Isolde. I never stopped thinking about what we had." I felt a thrill run through me, the kind I'd forgotten existed. This was what I'd been missing. Someone who saw me, really saw me, not just as Nathan's wife or Chloe's mother, but as me. Neither of us noticed my colleague Janet at a table across the cafe, discreetly taking a photo with her phone. The timestamp would show 3:47 p.m., exactly when Nathan was trying to call me from his hospital bed, confused and scared because he couldn't keep his pain medication down. Walking into my office the next morning, I felt lighter than I had in months. The afternoon with Elliot had reminded me who I used to be: confident, desirable, interesting. I'd forgotten that version of myself existed. That feeling lasted exactly until I reached my desk. Well, Janet said, appearing beside my cubicle with her coffee and a knowing smirk. "Interesting afternoon yesterday." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" She held up her phone, showing the photo she'd taken. Elliot and I at the cafe, his hand covering mine, both of us leaning in close. To anyone looking, it was obviously intimate. I mean, while your husband was recovering from surgery, you were having a cozy date with some guy who definitely isn't Nathan. Heat flooded my face. That's completely innocent. Elliot is an old friend, and we were just catching up. You're making it sound like something it's not. Am I? Janet's eyebrows raised. Because Linda saw you get into his car at the hospital, and the way you're looking at him in this photo, well, let's just say it's not very old friends energy. By lunch, the photo was circulating through the office WhatsApp group. By the end of the day, everyone was looking at me with a mixture of pity and judgment. "Isolde," my supervisor Karen called me into her office. "I need to ask you directly, is everything okay at home? Because this kind of workplace gossip reflects poorly on all of us." "Everything is fine," I said firmly. "People are bored and creating drama out of nothing. Nathan is paranoid and controlling, and apparently that's rubbing off on my colleagues. I had coffee with a friend. That's not a crime." Karen looked unconvinced but nodded. "Just be careful. Appearances matter." When I got home, Greg was in my driveway, clearly waiting for me. My sister Maya's husband had never been my biggest fan, but his expression was particularly cold today. "We need to talk," he said. "About what?" "About the fact that Nathan called Maya last night, worried sick because you disappeared from the hospital and weren't answering your phone. About the fact that Chloe spent the evening crying because she couldn't reach either of her parents." My chest tightened. I had work obligations. Nathan knew that. "Did your work obligations include getting cozy with your ex-boyfriend while your husband was alone and scared after surgery?" So the photo had reached my family too. Perfect. "That's none of your business, Greg." It became my business when Maya spent 2 hours on the phone with Nathan, trying to convince him he was overreacting. It became my business when Chloe asked me why Mommy doesn't answer her phone anymore. His voice was quiet but firm. "Nathan is a good man, Isolde. He deserves better than this." I slammed my car door harder than necessary. Everyone's an expert on my marriage suddenly. As I walked toward my house, my phone buzzed. A text from Nathan. "We need to talk." Nathan. I deleted it without responding. He was being dramatic as usual. This would all blow over once people found something else to gossip about. I had no idea that Nathan was sitting in a lawyer's office at that very moment, methodically going through phone records, hospital visitor logs, and security footage. I decided to take control of the narrative. Sunday family dinner would be perfect. I'd show everyone that Nathan was being paranoid and that our marriage was fine. Maya and Greg were coming, along with my mother Brenda and Nathan's mother Helen. I'd cook Nathan's favorite meal, be the perfect wife, and prove that people were making mountains out of molehills. Nathan had been quiet since coming home from the hospital, but I attributed that to his medication and the stress of surgery. He'd get over it. The table was set beautifully, candles lit, roast beef perfectly cooked. Everyone arrived within minutes of each other, and I greeted them with bright smiles and warm hugs. "You look lovely, dear," my mother said, though her smile seemed forced. Helen hugged Nathan extra tightly and barely acknowledged me. That stung, but I pushed through. Dinner conversation was stilted. Nathan answered questions about his recovery in monosyllables. Maya kept glancing between Nathan and me nervously. Greg focused intently on his plate. Finally, Helen broke the tension. "Isolde, Nathan tells me you had to leave the hospital early for work. That must have been quite an emergency." I felt all eyes on me. Yes, it was very urgent. I hated to leave, but sometimes adult responsibilities come first. I reached over and squeezed Nathan's hand. He didn't squeeze back. "What kind of work emergency happens on a Saturday afternoon?" Helen pressed. "Helen," my mother interjected, "I'm sure Isolde knows how to manage her priorities." "Do you?" Helen's voice was ice cold. "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you left your husband alone after surgery to meet another man." The silence was deafening. Chloe looked up from her mashed potatoes, confused by the adult tension. "That's completely unfair," I said, forcing my voice to stay calm. "I had coffee with an old friend. Nathan knew about it." I looked at him pointedly. "Didn't you, honey?" Nathan's jaw tightened. "No, Isolde, I didn't know about it. You told me you had work obligations." "Well, it was work-related. Elliot is in marketing now, and we discussed some potential collaborations." The lie came smoothly, but Nathan's expression told me he wasn't buying it. "Is that why you were holding hands?" Greg asked quietly. Maya shot him a warning look, but the damage was done. "We weren't holding hands," I snapped. "People are seeing what they want to see. Nathan, you know me better than this. You know I would never—" "Do I?" Nathan's voice was quiet but clear. "Because honestly, Isolde, I'm not sure I know you at all anymore." The room fell silent except for Chloe's fork scraping against her plate. "You're being paranoid," I said, forcing a laugh. "Everyone's being paranoid. I made one mistake, leaving the hospital too early, and suddenly I'm some kind of villain." "One mistake?" Helen's voice rose. "You left your husband alone and scared after surgery to meet another man. You lied about where you were going. You ignored your daughter's calls. That's not one mistake. That's a pattern of selfish behavior." "Helen, please," my mother said weakly. "No, Brenda, someone needs to say it. Nathan has been nothing but devoted to this family, and this is how he's repaid." I felt the room turning against me, felt control slipping away. "You don't understand the pressure I'm under. Nathan is emotionally distant. He never appreciates anything I do, and yes, sometimes I need support from someone who actually listens to me." "So you're blaming Nathan for your affair?" Greg's voice was deadly quiet. "It's not an affair. It was coffee." Nathan stood up slowly, his chair scraping against the floor. Every eye turned to him. "I've contacted a lawyer," he said simply. "I'll be staying at my mother's house until we can work out a more permanent arrangement." The words hit me like a physical blow. "Nathan, you can't be serious. You're going to break up our family over coffee." "I'm not breaking up anything, Isolde. You already did that." He looked around the table. "Thank you all for coming. I'm sorry dinner ended this way." He kissed Chloe's forehead, she was starting to cry now, and walked out of the dining room. A minute later, I heard the front door close. I looked around the table at my family. Maya was staring at her hands. Greg was comforting Chloe. My mother looked shell-shocked. Helen was gathering her purse. "He's being dramatic," I said, but my voice cracked. "He'll be back tomorrow." Nobody responded. One by one, they made their excuses and left. I sat alone at the beautiful table I'd set, surrounded by half-eaten food and the wreckage of my carefully crafted narrative. For 2 weeks, I told myself Nathan would come to his senses. He was staying at Helen's house, picking up Chloe for school and activities, being coldly polite when we had to interact. I kept expecting him to break, to miss me, to realize he was overreacting. Instead, he seemed calmer than I'd seen him in years. Maya had been avoiding my calls. When she finally agreed to meet me at her apartment, I thought I could make her understand my side. "He's being completely unreasonable," I told her as we sat in her living room. "I had coffee with a friend. That's literally all that happened." Maya was quiet for a long moment. "Is it, though?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, Isolde, I've been thinking about this a lot. And honestly, even if nothing physical happened, you emotionally cheated on Nathan. You left him when he needed you to be with another man. You lied about it. You're still lying about it." I stared at my sister. "I can't believe you're taking his side." "I'm not taking sides. I'm trying to understand how my sister could do something so hurtful to someone who loves her." "Nathan doesn't love me." The words exploded out of me. "He tolerates me. He takes me for granted. When was the last time he surprised me, or made me feel special, or even really looked at me? When was the last time you tried to connect with him instead of looking for attention somewhere else?" Before I could respond, Greg walked in carrying a manila envelope. "This came for you," he said, handing it to me. "Nathan asked me to make sure you got it." My hands shook as I opened it. Inside were printed screenshots of text messages between Elliot and me that I'd forgotten about, messages where I'd complained about Nathan, where I'd reminisced about our college relationship, where I'd agreed to meet him just to talk multiple times over the past month. There were bank statements showing I'd Venmo'd Elliot money for lunch 3 different times. There were hospital visitor logs showing exactly when I'd left. There was a photo from Nathan's school parking lot dashcam showing me getting into Elliot's car. At the bottom was a letter from Nathan's attorney, formally requesting mediation for divorce proceedings and outlining a custody arrangement for Chloe. "This is insane," I whispered. "He's been spying on me." "He's been protecting himself," Greg said quietly. "And honestly, Isolde, looking at this evidence, I don't blame him." I looked up at Maya, desperate for support, but she was reading over my shoulder with a shocked expression. "Isolde," she said softly, "you told Elliot that Nathan was emotionally abusive and that you were planning your exit strategy. Did you really say that?" I had forgotten about that text, sent late one night after Nathan and I had argued about money. I was venting. People say things when they're frustrated. "You told another man that you were planning to leave your husband. How is Nathan supposed to trust you after that?" "Because I didn't mean it." "How is he supposed to know what you mean and what you don't mean when you've been lying for months?" I sank onto Maya's couch, the weight of the evidence in my hands. Nathan had been thorough, methodical, careful. Every lie I'd told, every excuse I'd made, every manipulation I'd attempted, he had receipts for all of it. "What am I supposed to do?" I asked. Maya sat beside me, but she didn't offer comfort. "You're supposed to take responsibility for what you've done and figure out how to make amends." "And if it's too late for that?" She was quiet for a long moment. "Then you're supposed to let Nathan go with dignity and focus on being the best mother you can be to Chloe." Looking at the legal papers in my hands, I realized that Nathan had already made his choice. He wasn't coming back. The process server arrived on a Tuesday morning while I was getting Chloe ready for school. I'd been hoping Nathan would change his mind, that we could work things out privately, that this whole nightmare would just fade away. Instead, I opened my front door to find a professional-looking woman with a clipboard and an envelope. Isolde Merrin? Yes. You're being served with divorce and custody papers. My hands trembled as I took the thick envelope. Behind me, I heard Chloe's footsteps on the stairs. Mummy, who is it? Just someone from work, honey. Go finish your breakfast. But Chloe had seen the official papers, and her 7-year-old mind was smart enough to understand that something important and scary was happening. Is Daddy really not coming home? She asked quietly. I knelt down to her level, trying to keep my voice steady. Daddy and I are just working some things out. Everything's going to be okay. But even as I said it, I knew it wasn't true. Reading through the papers later that morning, I realized Nathan had been even more thorough than I'd imagined. He had documented everything, every lie, every inconsistency, every time I'd chosen my own desires over my family's needs. The custody arrangement was fair but firm. Shared custody, with Nathan having primary residence during the school week. The financial settlement was equitable. There was no drama, no vindictiveness, just a clear, legal end to our marriage. That afternoon, my mother came over. She'd been distant since the family dinner, but seeing the divorce papers seemed to shake her into action. Oh, Isolde, she said, pulling me into a hug. How did it come to this? I don't know, I lied, but I did know. It had come to this because I'd been selfish and dishonest and had convinced myself that my unhappiness justified hurting the people who loved me. Can you fix it? She asked. I thought about Nathan's calm demeanor over the past weeks, his methodical collection of evidence, the way he'd stopped fighting with me and started documenting everything instead. I don't think so, I admitted. That evening, Nathan came to pick up some more of his belongings. We stood in the kitchen we'd shared for 7 years, and I tried one last time. Nathan, please, can we try counseling? Can we try to work this out? He looked at me with something that might have been pity. Isolde, you had an emotional affair. You lied repeatedly. You abandoned me when I needed you most. And even now, you're not taking responsibility for any of it. I am taking responsibility. You're taking responsibility for making mistakes or having coffee with a friend. You're not taking responsibility for betraying your marriage, for lying to your family, for manipulating everyone around you to avoid consequences. His words hit like physical blows because they were true. I was unhappy, I said weakly. So was I, he replied. But I didn't handle my unhappiness by starting a relationship with someone else. We could start over. No, we can't, because I don't trust you anymore, and I don't think you're capable of the kind of honesty that would be required to rebuild that trust. He picked up his box of belongings and headed toward the door. Nathan, I called after him. I'm sorry, I really am sorry. He turned back, and for a moment I thought maybe. I know you are, he said gently, but sorry doesn't undo the damage. After he left, I sat in my empty house and finally, truly understood what I had lost. Not just Nathan, but the respect of my family, the stability of my daughter's home, and any claim I had to being a good person. The divorce papers sat on my kitchen table like an indictment. Every page documented another lie, another betrayal, another moment when I'd chosen my own selfish desires over the people who depended on me. I'd followed my heart, just like I'd told myself I had every right to do. But my heart had led me to destroy everything good in my life. Now I was truly alone, and for the first time, I had to face the fact that I had no one to blame but myself. The regret came fast, just like the title promised. But it came too late to matter. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Write in the comments from which city you are watching.